See, you cannot not participate in the process of evolution. You're participating in that process automatically by the living of your life. Find myself wanting to say, without wanting to appear falsely modest. It's not about false modesty, but I find myself wanting to say that I had very little to do with all that's just been talked about here. I simply took dictation, honestly. I didn't create any of the messages. I didn't produce any of the wisdom. I didn't reveal any of the solutions to life's mysteries. I simply took dictation. And I'm grateful to God and to life that I had the opportunity to do that. And I want to begin my chat with you today by allowing you to know that this is not something that is exclusive to me, this experience. That in fact, and if I hear one question more than any other from people around the world when I make a few appearances, people say to me, how can I have that experience? Or how can I have my own conversation with God? Or can I even have my own? And the answer, of course, as all of you in this room know, the answer is yes, and you are doing it all the time. God is talking to all of us all the time. It's not a question of to whom is God talking, it's a question of who's listening. What we want to make sure we don't do is dismiss the information. I want to say the data, almost I want to say, to dismiss the data that we're receiving from that source of divine wisdom and clarity that resides within all of us, and dismiss it as either coincidence or serendipity or not meaningful or perhaps, you know what's interesting? Many people dismiss the information they receive from the source of wisdom within them because it's too good to be true. And they hear these extraordinarily positive and powerful messages, and they literally reject them and do not act on them because they're too good to be true. And I'm in that category. I said to God in the dialogue, you may remember that passage where I said, gosh, this all seems too good to be true. And God said to me, well, if God can't be too good to be true, who can? So I didn't really have a good answer to that question. It's exactly right. So if the message you're receiving about yourself, about your future, about our collective future, about your talents, about your gifts, about the wonder and the joy of who you are, and all of it, really, if the information you're receiving seems almost too good to be true, then let yourself embrace it. Let yourself accept it. Let yourself hold it as, in fact, the truth about you coming from the place inside of you that knows the truth and is the truth. Now, having said that, the title of today's talk is Our Role in Evolution. And thank you for showing up and deciding to be here for this brief time that we can share together this morning. And let's consider that title, Our Role in Evolution. I presume you wouldn't be here in the room if it didn't hold at least some interest for you. What is our role in evolution? I'd like to begin by saying that our role in evolution has nothing to do with everybody else. So don't feel like, oh, I got this burden or this assignment or this, process I have to engage in that's going to, produce an evolutionary leap for humankind. So just to know that the role in evolution that you are being invited to play by life itself has nothing to do with everybody else. And it has everything to do with everybody else. So it's one of those divine dichotomies that are often spoken of in the Conversations with God material. It's a divine dichotomy where two apparently contradictory truths exist simultaneously in the same space. So your role in evolution has nothing to do with everybody else, and it has everything to do with everybody else. But to clarify that apparent contradiction, it begins, and I know you've heard this 1,000 times, I'm sorry to bring you nothing new this morning. It's important to know that I have nothing new to say, and the reason you're here is not to be enlightened or appraised of or opened to something new, but merely to be reminded. I want to suggest to you that you brought yourself here this morning to be reminded of what you already know, of what you already understand. So if it sounds like I'm saying, things you've heard 1,000 times before from 100 other so-called messengers and teachers and read in 100 other books and heard yourself in your own mind from the source of your wisdom, if it sounds like all I'm doing is repeating all of that, know that that's the process. That's what's going on. That was designed to be that way. You brought yourself here not to hear anything new, in my view, but to remind yourself of what you already know. So the process of evolution invites us to answer a question, to make a decision, a major decision that we need to address today, in my view. And the decision is not whether you will participate in the process of evolution, but how. You cannot not participate in the process of evolution. You're participating in that process automatically by the living of your life. So it's not a question of whether you're going to participate even in the larger process that may in fact affect other people, because you are already participating. So the question is not whether you will participate, but how. And I hope to be able to answer or to offer you an answer that's come to be true for me, and see whether it fits in your reality as well this morning. But before I do that, before we get into the how, let me just take a tiny diversion here and talk about why. And those of you who were with me the other day for the all-day event heard a little bit of this, but to share it with many of you who were not there. The why of it. I mean, like, why bother? Why can't we just get on with our lives? Just do what we do and get on with our lives. Why bother engaging in the process of evolution in a conscious way? I'm going to make that delineation in a conscious way because, as I just said a minute ago, we're all involved in the process, whether we know it or not, whether we're doing it consciously or not. We're engaging in the process of our own evolution by the choices and decisions, by the words, thoughts, and actions that emerge from us in our life. That's what's going on. We're evolving. And we can't not do that. But we can not do it consciously. That is, we can find ourselves doing it unconsciously. And so the question becomes, how are we going to engage in that process? And I think the answer to that question, how, somehow emerges more urgently when we look closely at why. Why bother? The question why is answered by taking a look at what we're doing here to begin with. But even before we do that, let's take a look at how we're doing on the planet. I made a few notes here on why we may choose as a collective to engage ourselves, to involve ourselves in the process of our evolution. My dear friends, I don't want to begin this Sunday morning with a downer. But I do think it's important for us to look at the nature of things, just briefly, for 3 or 4 minutes, to take a look at why. Why engage in the process of our own evolution and the evolution of the species? It's simple. It's now or never time. We are a self-destructive species. Whether we're willing to acknowledge it or not, humanity is a self-destructive species. That is, we are killing ourselves and killing each other, and we can't find a way to stop it. We don't seem, as I was told in conversations with God, we can't even find a way to stop from killing each other and from killing ourselves. Much less, the smaller goals. Can we just get along? Can we find a little happiness and peace and joy in our life? But forget about those goals. We can't even stop killing each other. And we're doing it in 1,000 ways all the time. As an example, we're poisoning ourselves and each other by the way we treat the environment. And we can't even admit it. Half of us can't even, oh, Neale, don't start with the environment stuff. But we're poisoning our rivers and our streams and the air and the ground, and we can't, as a species, even admit it, much less stop it. We're sentencing thousands to death by the way we make modern medicine and modern medical miracles available only to the well-to-do. Millions of people can't even have access to the medicines or to the procedures that extend life on this planet. And I speak from experience. Those of you who were there on Friday know that I've recently, about 18 months ago, less than 18 months ago, had open heart surgery. And it was a remarkable procedure where they slice you open and they do what they do, and they do a bypass, and I had a quintuple bypass. So, but to think of something like that in the middle of certain countries of the world, which will go nameless, would be impossible. So when I emerged from the operation, I was aware of not only the miracle of what had occurred, but the miracle that it had occurred, that I was able to access that kind of a procedure. To see, there's nothing to sneeze at. You got to work with what's going on in the room, folks. We're killing ourselves by the way we feed ourselves. Watch what you're putting into your own body. You're killing yourself, and we don't seem actually to care. It's like, oh, Neale, don't start with that now. But we're killing ourselves. We're cutting our lives short, for sure, by the way we're feeding ourselves, or not feeding some of us, by the way we're not feeding some of us. I don't know whether you're aware of it or not, but statistics from the United Nations and other agencies like that tell us that 656 children die on this planet every hour from starvation. Yeah, you heard that right. I didn't say every week or every day, every hour. 656 children die of starvation because of the way we're not feeding ourselves. We can't even get food to them. We're killing ourselves by the way we use bombs and missiles to solve our differences and resolve our disagreements. I'll show you. My missile is bigger than yours. It is, by the way, but that's another. We're killing ourselves by the way we sell certain substances, like tobacco or street drugs. And we sell that stuff knowing that it is killing us to buy it and use it. And there are probably 2 or 3 people in this room that are still buying and using those substances. No judgment here, just an observation, just noticing. We see, we're a self-destructive species. Only a very young species, immature, would do something that they know in advance is not good for them. Oh, Neale, stop it. You got a cigarette? I need to get, This guy Walsh is hard to take. We're killing ourselves by the way we use assault weapons, assault rifles, easily obtainable by children, 18 years old. I mean, you can't get certain prescriptions at that age. But you can buy an assault rifle. You don't have to register it. You don't have to let anybody know you got it. You can buy as many as you want. You can have 10 of them if you want, like some people do. So you can get in there and kill as many people as fast as possible. And we do that in this world. We're killing each other by creating startlingly realistic images of violence and killing, and putting them on huge screens in movie theaters and on television screens as well, and calling it, you ready? Entertainment. Look at some of the movies that we're watching, and we call this entertainment. And we criticize, they went into the Colosseum and the Romans watched, with the lions, we thought, I was in Rome a few years ago, and I went to the Colosseum, and I thought, how could people have actually sat in these concrete seats, and watched the lions attacking the Christians? How could they have called that entertainment and cheered? And then I realized, okay, maybe we're not doing it in real time, in real life, but we're not that far removed. After all these centuries, we've stopped doing it live in person, but we've created the most incredible images of it so we can continue to look at the horror and the devastation of violence and killing in front of us on a huge screen, sometimes in 3D. And we call it entertainment, or worse yet, we call it games. And we put our children at the ages 6, 7, 8, and 9 in front of. Are you guys really playing? Oh, Neale, it's just a game. It's just a game until I get an actual rifle in my hand and go to high school just a few years later. And we wonder, where did they get such an idea? Where did these kids get such an idea? But we put them in front of this, they become our babysitters. We're killing each other in the most unusual way. We actually kill people deliberately with malice aforethought, total awareness, by the authority of the state. That is, the government kills people in order to teach people that killing people is not okay. And we fail to see the contradiction. We call it the death penalty. I'll teach you not to kill people. I'll kill you deliberately. Totally ignoring Einstein's brilliant insight that you cannot solve any problem using the identical energy that created it. No, but we try to solve violence with violence, solve anger with anger, end murder with murder. I got an idea. Give the teachers weapons. That's it. Why didn't I think of that? Yeah. Put a gun in the hand of every teacher in all the classrooms. That'll stop the killing. Yeah. I mean, in an insane asylum, the inmates have taken over the asylum. What's going on? And finally, I had one last note here I wanted to read. Oh, yeah, that was the most important one of all. We kill people in the name of God. We use God as our justification for killing other people. We can call it by lots of names, but We kill people in the name of God, and we've been doing it for centuries on this planet. That's the species of which we are members. Now, I understand that none of you are part of most of that. Well, we'll see what you have for lunch. Maybe you'll stop killing yourself prematurely, but and we'll see how many of you leave here, go outside and take a little break, a little cigarette break. But other than that, you're probably not part of the larger problems that I've just described. But we're certainly all witnessing it, and it's getting to the point where we wake up in the morning almost nervous to turn on the internet or read the paper. Yeah, that was a flimsy substance that you'd hold in your hand that had words printed on it. In the morning, you'd actually read off of it. It's called a newspaper. We don't want to turn the news on. What's happening? What's going on? How can it get any worse? And what can be done, if anything, to make it better? And that becomes the question of the day. So let's look at how we can participate if we choose to make it better. Because, guys, ladies and gentlemen, truly, honestly, and all joking aside, it's now or never time. It happens in the next 20 or 30 years, and that's a long stretch, or it's not going to happen at all. So this is about the future of yourself, if you're a younger person, certainly of your children, absolutely of your children's children. That's what we're talking about here. And if any of that matters to you, then you'll want to listen carefully to some of the tools I hope to share about our role in evolution. Again, nothing new. You're going to realize you've heard all this before, but as a reminder. So let's take a look at those ways that you can involve yourself in the process of evolution. And let's begin by remembering what I said at the outset. It has to do with you and you and you and you. What have I done, speaking about myself, and you get to ask yourself the same question. What have I done today to move forward my own evolutionary journey, my own evolutionary process? So I'm going to give you a tool that I'd like you to consider using in your life. I call this tool, and it was given to me, by the way, in Conversations with God, the 4 fundamental questions of life. And I invite you to determine what is your role in the evolution of yourself and your species by using this tool. And I'm going to invite you to use the tool every day, every morning when you wake up. In fact, you may want to use it 2 or 3 times a day, perhaps morning, noon, and night. Wouldn't be a bad idea, at the beginning at least, until you get yourself used to living inside the context of that tool. The tool I call the 4 fundamental questions of life. These are 4 questions that most people live their entire lives and never ask themselves, much less answer. Some of you in this room, again, I realize I'm speaking here to the cognoscenti, those who know. And by the way, if you think it's easy to use the word cognoscenti in a sentence, try it sometime. You have to really fight hard to fit it in. I realize I'm sitting here in front of those who know. And, I've observed that people fall into a number of different categories. There are those who don't know, and they don't know that they don't know. They are innocent, like children. Nurture them. There are those who don't know, but they are willing to know. They are students. Teach them. Then there are those who don't know, but they think that they know. They are dangerous. Avoid them. Then there are those who know, but who don't know that they know. They are illusory, living in the dilemma of their own illusions. They're asleep. Wake them. Then there are those who know and who know that they know. These are the cognoscenti, those who know. Don't follow them blindly, but listen very carefully to what they have to say, because they may just remind you and others as well who have temporarily forgotten that they know. Because there's another category here. There are those who know but pretend that they don't know. They are actors. Enjoy them. Let them enjoy their dramas, but only up to a certain point, and then wake them up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. You just made that all up. You just made that all up. Stop it. Get back to who you really are, which is the first of the 4 fundamental questions of life. If you wake up every morning and look at yourself in the mirror after the UGG, I mean, that's where I start, just like, But then, I throw some cold water and I feel a little bit better and I look at myself and I realize, it's not so bad. It could be worse. And then I graduate from not so bad, could be worse to I get better and better every day. Then I ask myself the first of the 4 fundamental questions of life. I've trained myself to do this every morning when I wake up. First question, who am I? This is the big decision that you have an opportunity to make today. We talked about this on Friday for those of you who were there. Forgive the repetition, but I have only one message. Who am I becomes the key question of your life. Are you a physical entity, a physical being, a chemical creature, if you please, a combination of chemical elements that forms and shapes itself this way, as opposed to forming and shaping itself as a dolphin or a whale or a bird in the sky or a fish in the sea, just another biological, chemical entity in this particular form. And you may think that this is the most sophisticated of all the life forms on the planet. I wouldn't guarantee that, by the way. There's some question as to whether dolphins and whales may have a way to engage in their society that's far more elevated than our own, but that's another whole workshop. I'll let Lisa Nichols handle that one. Love you, Lisa, just kidding. But is that who we are? Basically a chemical creature? That we're born, we live, we have this experience, we die, and that's it? Or is it possible, just possible, that we're more than that? That we are actually not a chemical creature, but a spiritual entity. A spiritual entity that has a body and a mind, but that is not their body and their mind. Just understands that that's something you have, like equipment, tools. So you have your body and your mind, but you're not your body and your mind. But you are that which has a body and a mind. If you decide that that's who you are, and many of you in this room have already made that decision, yes, that describes me. I am a spiritual entity with a body and a mind. But then we needs must ask ourselves the next obvious question. Why? Why would I have a body and a mind? what am I doing with these tools? What's the point of it? Why would my spirit put me here of all places and cause me to stay here for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 or more years? I never thought I'd reach the age that I am. I'm an old person. I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror, really, and I say, wow, still here.